Hello, welcome to Human Tech, a podcast about the intersection between humans and technology. My name's Guthrie. I'm here with Susan. Hello, Susan.
I'm here, Guthrie.
Well, but are you engaged?
I am really here. I'm present. Is that what you mean?
It's a very low bar. Susan is present. That's good.
No, I mean, like present as in mindfulness present.
Today's topic is all about UX strategy. This is one part a topic we haven't covered before, though we've covered in bits and pieces. But also, we just released a big oh my god, it's been so much work. A UX strategy bundle. This bundle is on our online course catalog, courses.theteamblue.com, and it basically covers a lot of UX strategy. We have we're not going to promote it too much, but I will say if you want, we have a UX strategy fundamentals, which is completely free. So you just go to courses.theteamblue.com. You can take, I would want to call it a short course, but
we call it a short course, but it's not really very short. It's a little shorter than the rest of the courses in the bundle.
6 lessons. It's well over an hour.
It was
content.
supposed to be like 20 minutes long and 2 lessons, but I got carried away.
So there's that course, but as well as 5 others that make up the bundle, and each course is very long. So you want to just go through sort of the subjects, and we'll just kind of chit chat about one at a time.
You want to talk first when do you want to talk at a higher level about what UX strategy is, or do you just want to talk about the courses first and then we'll talk about that?
Well, then let's start with fundamentals. What is UX strategy then?
Thank you, Guthrie, for that excellent question.
Right.
That's actually a good question, and like so many other things in UX, I don't think there's agreement on it. So, and I say at the beginning I say somewhere in the curriculum bundle that there is an agreement on what UX strategy means. And so this is like my version of what it means. But here's the idea, people who, if you do any kind of work in user experience, like if you are a user experience designer or a researcher, or you're part of a UX team in an organization, at some point you kind of run into this constellations of problems and issues about how do we do our work more effectively and more efficiently. Like UX teams will get to the point where they feel like, we every time we start a project, it's like we're starting at square one. Isn't there a way to do this work more effectively? Isn't there a way to build on what we've done before? And then, so besides, effectiveness and efficiency, there's also another place that UX professionals or UX teams eventually get to, which is, we're doing really great work, and some people appreciate our work, like the teams that we're working with, or particular stakeholder on this project. But we don't feel like we have a whole lot of influence in the organization. Like we were brought in at the last minute, or not that many people know about us. And so, Guthrie, as you know, I've done a lot of UX consulting over the years, and I would work with teams, and we'd be working on, maybe we'd be teaching them how to do, design, or maybe we'd be teaching them research, or maybe I'd be consulting on a project. But these issues about how can we be more efficient, effective, influential would always come up in our conversations. And this is what I call UX strategy. And so I've been doing UX strategy consulting for, a long time. And it just, I don't know, we just got to the point where we decided it was time to revamp our course. And I guess I got to the point where I wanted to put everything I had learned about how to make UX teams more effective, efficient, and influential into a series of courses.
Right.
So does that, you are not technically a UX professional, although, I know you've done UX work, but you think of yourself, and I agree, as more of a behavioral scientist than a UX person. But does that make sense to you? What, about UX strategy? Does that definition make sense, or do you have any questions about what that means?
What does it not include?
Oh. What does UX strategy
in compared to some of the other things that we talk about?
Well, it's a great question, because it kind of includes
forms.
No, it does not include the design of specific interfaces. Although it does include, I think, knowing about the basic UX principles. So in one of the courses in the bundle, which is UX principles, I go through 15 UX principles. But it doesn't include things like, how do I design this form? Or, it includes a lot of stuff, though. So, at a high level, if you're gonna be an effective team, there's like things you gotta know and things you have to have in place. And some of these are things that, every UX professional should know. And some are things that somebody has to put in place for the team in order for them to be able to work effectively. Like you got to have a repository where all your UX work goes, so that you can find out what other people have done before you, and so that people after you can find the work you did. You have to have, standards and guidelines and templates and patterns. So in a way, I guess UX strategy includes everything, Guthrie. It's the whole universe of UX work. But it doesn't, for instance, in our UX design curriculum of courses, we have things like designing for engagement and doing user research and doing detailed design and down to a detailed level. And UX strategy is kind of pulling all that up to a higher level, so it doesn't include. There's not redundancy. There's very little redundancy. If you talk about UX strategy versus if you talk about UX design, to me, those are obviously related, but they're two different things.
Okay.
Did that make it clear as mud, as they say?
Probably. Yeah.
Sorry. I guess I should be able to talk about this more clearly.
So let's go through the courses then.
Okay. And then I want to talk about something called a roadmap. Can I do that after we go through the courses?
We can talk about a roadmap now if you want.
No, let's go through the courses first. So, in no particular order, there's a course on UX methods. Okay. So,
well, I was gonna go. Well, you can you can list them all.
Do you want me to just list them or talk about them?
Well, I was gonna actually talk about them.
Go ahead. We can do that. So there's a course on UX methods, which is all about, there's different methodologies about doing UX. I mean, in some ways, I think there's one methodology, which is user-centered design. Other people don't agree with me. But there are other methodologies, primarily for product or software development, in which UX professionals valiantly try to put UX into those other processes with varying degrees of success. So anyway, we talk about UX methods. We talk about lean UX and agile UX and user-centered design and design thinking. So that's one thing that I think is part of UX strategy is to, and part of what I wanted to do with this set of training, Guthrie, is, if you're a UX professional and you're in this organization over here, they're going to do things one way, and then you go to another organization or another part of the same organization and they do things in a different way. And so my idea was to kind of prepare people for all the different things they are likely to encounter as they grow in their UX career. So, knowing what the different possible methodologies are that you're going to be asked to do UX work within. I think that's important. So we have the UX methods class. We have a class. One of my favorite ones is how to promote UX in your organization. So I think this is really important. If you want to have more influence, you got to learn how to, let's be honest, market and sell what you're doing and within your organization. And so that one is, it has one of your favorite topics, Guthrie, is in that course, which is ROI, return on investment.
Yeah, I at a certain point, I'm going to do a course on ROI.
Good.
Yeah, it's time for me to take over ROI, but I don't know.
Why are you waiting? You helped me a lot with the one
you did a really good job.
Well, that's because you helped me, you coached me through that. So anyway,
in ROI, there's like the simple ROI.
Yeah, and then there's the Guthrie complicated ROI. I like that.
Much more correct economic modeling of it.
Probabilities. And we break it all down in the course. I think we did a good job at making it easy to understand. Anyway, so ROI is in the promoting one, but not just that. Also just ideas and tips and techniques about things you can do to promote the work that you do in the organization. Then we have a class on I call the UX Toolbox. And that's just, I wanted to put in one place all the stuff that UX professionals do. And my idea was that if you're like maybe you're a product manager, or maybe you're a UX manager, or maybe you're a UX professional, but what you've been doing the whole time is design. I just wanted to have in one place, hey, there's all these things that UX professionals do or could do on a project. And so what should you do? Which ones do you do? Well, should you do a heuristic evaluation or a cognitive walkthrough or a user test? Are you doing card sorting? There's just like all this stuff. And so that's what that course is all about, just going through all the different activities, when in the UX process you do them, pros and cons and so on. Then there's a course on infrastructure.
Well, hold on.
What?
I think we're going way too fast.
Oh, okay. Yeah, slow it down.
Yeah.
What do you want to know?
So.
Yeah.
We don't have to talk about just the course. We can talk about sort of UX methods in general. I was curious if you had if you have a favorite UX method.
I'm teaching this semester. I'm an adjunct, that, at University of Wisconsin in Stevens Point, Wisconsin. And my class, I usually teach one course a semester. And this semester, the course is on UX methods. So this is very prominent in my head. Yes, of course I have a favorite UX method. You know which one is my favorite. Yeah. Well, you know what? No, this is an interesting question. If pressed, I'm going to tell you that the basic, regular, vanilla, user-centered design process is, in my opinion, the one that is the best. And there's a lot of variations on how you do that. However, I am a real fan of lean UX, at least the way I do lean UX, which is maybe not what other people do. But lean UX, I think, is kind of different. And it's kind of fun because the four methods that we cover in the class and the four methods I teach at the university, lean, agile, design thinking, user-centered design, although they all have a few, they definitely have some things in common. But they're really different. And in my experience, when you use one over another, you really get different results. You really do. The process leads you to do the work in a different way and results in not just, a different set of activities you're doing, not just a different set of deliverables you may or may not be creating, but actually leads you to different design solutions So I'd love to have, I'd love to, maybe I should do this in my class at the UW. I'd love to have a bake-off, where...
What?
A bake-off.
A bake-off?
Yeah, don't you know that term? I didn't invent that. That's a normal term. Isn't it?
I don't. Well, I mean, I know what a bake-off is, but like a Great British Baking Show.
Yeah. I'd like to do that for the 4 methodologies where you'd have 4 teams. You'd give them all the same design problem. But each team has to use one of the 4 methods. And then you see how they do. How long does it take them? What kind of solution do they come up with? Yeah, a bake-off. I think that'd be fun. So, So, did I answer your question about which one is my favorite? I guess I have 2 favorites. You're not surprised that Agile is not my favorite, and I tried to be kind to Agile UX in the course.
Well, it's the default that everyone's doing.
It's what everyone, I mean, it's what most people are using, or a lot of people a lot of people out there have to do UX work within an Agile shop. And so I have empathy. And I try to talk about, what some of the issues are and how to perhaps work around them. But I also think it's important, there's some people, I guess maybe, if you haven't worked in a lot of different places, and maybe all you've ever known is doing UX work in an Agile shop. And so I guess I wanted to let you know there are other opportunities. There are other ways to do it.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And, this is really good if there are a lot of people who are dipping their toe into UX, and maybe
this has not been, they don't have a long career in it yet.
Yeah, this maybe isn't a 2 decades of experience, and you've seen all the iterations and the history, and so just to be able to get an hour all about lean, if you've never, if you have no idea what that's like, I think that's cool.
Yeah. Good.
All right. So that's UX methods.
Yeah.
I think UX methods is, I don't want to say it's my favorite, but
you like it?
Might be. I really like the way it's laid out because it's very bite-sized. Every little thing is a nice little nibble.
Yeah.
The the structure of it is very pleasing to me as sort of an engineering
That's
type
so interesting.
mind.
Yeah.
Well, because it's like there's everything is its own little unit.
Yes.
But perfectly and now we're moving on to a new different method.
Right.
So it just goes together. So let's talk about principles. Let's talk about principles.
Yeah.
UX principles. What's a UX principle?
What's a UX principle?
Yeah, what's a UX principle?
A UX principle is a guiding concept that you want to make sure you manifest in whatever it is you're designing. And it doesn't have anything to do with a particular platform or application or screen. So for instance, a UX principle is something I call contextual appropriateness. These principles some of them have weird names. But the idea is that whatever you're designing, whether you're designing how people are going to go through a museum, whether you're designing an app for ordering a pizza, whatever, whether you're designing a medical technology to take someone's blood pressure, whatever you're designing, you've got to take the context of use into account. Like, the context is critical. You have to know, are people using this by themselves? Are they using it with others? Is it a noisy environment? Are they distracted? What are they doing? Are they under tension and stress? So there's a principle called contextual appropriateness, and we talk in the training about what that means, why it's important, why you need to pay attention to it. So that's one. There's 15 of them. I'm not going to name all 15, but another one is control. So people need to feel that they have some control over what they're doing and how they do it with what, again, doesn't matter what you're designing. If people feel that they are not in control at all, it will make them nervous, and they'll do weird things if they get nervous. So it's 15 principles like that would apply no matter what you are designing. And I really like that one because I really like, it's the whole, I don't know, it's that wonderful combination of psychology and human factors and design, comes together in one place. So, and some of these principles I think are, someone who's been doing UX for a long time, I don't know that any of these would be a total surprise, and some of them they've probably heard of before, but also it's kind of my unique take on them. So anyway, for each principle we talk about what it is and we give examples. We talk about what it is, why it's important, and then we give some examples of how you would put it into use. And I think it's important. I think if you're going to do, if you get, here's again my idea of the UX strategy is you want to make sure that whenever you're working on a particular project, you zoom out to a little bit higher level and apply kind of best practice knowledge and skills to that project before you even start. So you kind of want to make sure you have this skills and knowledge set so that when you're going in, now you're going to zoom in and work on a particular project. But all this other stuff that we're talking about here, you've got, and you can draw on as you do your work. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think that makes sense, So just to reiterate, so it's like if you're starting up a UX team, what are like some really important things to know and to keep in mind and to like have at the ready?
Yeah, either when you start, not just starting up a UX, it's definitely if you're starting up a UX team, there's, I think everything in here would apply. But even if you're on an experienced UX team, the other thing that's, I think that happens now, and you've seen this, Guthrie, when we go to teach our workshops, and, we're teaching, we'll be brought in to teach one of our workshops and to, perhaps the UX team. And there's a lot of variation and variability on with skill sets and knowledge. People come to that role from a lot of different places.
They really do.
And so you have somebody who is just, a killer designer, and user interface designer, and can prototype screens like crazy, but maybe doesn't know a whole lot about user research, or maybe never did learn the basic principles of human factors applied to design, or it's just like people don't always know all of this, and they may not need to know all of this. And in fact, in one of the courses, the infrastructure course, we talk about does everybody need to be a generalist, meaning they know everything, or is it okay if some people specialize? So, I think it's okay if some people specialize, but you would want to make sure in the makeup of the team, right, that there's a couple of people that have all of, this skill, and a couple of people have this skill, so that the team as a whole, you've got the whole skill set. And I think that's part of what, the whole UX strategy is. It's interesting because to me, it's and I talk in the fundamentals course about there's 3 dimensions to UX strategy. That's the way I think of it. So on a micro level, there's the dimension of I have to do this project, and I need to know what kind of UX work should I, what do I need to do on this project? I got a limited budget. I have X amount of time.
Yeah.
So what should I do and what should I let go of given what's going on with this particular project? So, and to me, that's UX strategy, right? It's the strategy of applying what we know about UX to a particular project. But then I think there are these 2 other dimensions as well. So the second dimension that I talk about in the fundamentals course is how do you even decide what UX work to do? Whether you're a UX team of 1 or whether you're a whole team, you've got all these possible projects. Now, sometimes you're just assigned to them, and those are the ones you do. But sometimes, it's like, well, which is more important? Which one do I do? How do I prioritize these? So I share a method of prioritizing your UX work and being able to think about it on 2 axes. One is how much impact does having this project, how much it will impact the product or the organization, and then also how easy or hard is it to do this UX work. Right. And then the third dimension, which is the one I think we've been talking about a lot on this talk in this conversation so far, is the dimension of UX at a higher level and UX in the organization, and that's the infrastructure and the methods and all of that. So I think to me UX strategy is all of those things, and so if you have a good handle on what staff you have and what skills they have and what skills they're missing, I think that helps you figure out either how to grow the staff you have or who to bring in next, or maybe just to know that you're light on something,
Mm-hmm.
Just to realize, oops, we really don't have anyone who has that human factors background, or we really don't have anyone who knows how to do cognitive walkthroughs and heuristic evaluations,
Right. Okay, so that's those principles, basically just an amalgamation of good ideas.
Yeah.
Cool. We have UX strategy infrastructure, which was formerly called enterprise, but we've now called infrastructure.
Yeah. So what's in there, this is that a big part of that efficient, effective thing I talked about. So and I don't remember if we've ever talked about this in one of our episodes, but you really need a history. You need a repository of work you've done. And everybody needs to know where it is, and everybody needs to be able to access it. I mentioned in the chorus that there are times when I'm the history. To have a very large Fortune 500 company, and when they want to know, did we do any user research with this target audience, they call me because I was the consultant, and they can't find any of their documentation, and I keep everything, unless under sometimes with an NDA I can't keep it and I have to destroy it, and I do. But it's really important that you do all this work, and you want to be able to reference it in the future. So that's part of infrastructure. You're having standards, guidelines, patterns templates in place for UX forms and menus and navigation and is really important. I mean, recently, Guthrie, you and I worked on a project where we were evaluating a whole series of screens for customer self-service, and I couldn't resist. I took a picture of all the different, I think it was just like an OK button.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like 20, so if you were a customer and you were using this, using this product, this had to do with like paying your bill, and it was for businesses. In the course of just, checking out your account and paying your bill, you would encounter like 20 different versions of the OK button in terms of size and
which
font
you wouldn't
and color.
Like notice because it wasn't one page. It's not like it was all.
You might notice though.
On
See,
one
the
page,
thing is,
but you might.
Oh yeah, but see, the thing is that these are little inconsistencies. There's two problems with that. Okay, one is on a very subtle level that might not be conscious. You don't look very together.
Mm-hmm.
This doesn't convey a company that's really together, that has their act together. It doesn't convey. It starts to erode trust. If every time I encounter a form or a button or a page or a menu, it's a little bit different.
Right.
It might even cause confusion because it's like, oh, what am I supposed to do here? At the very least, it erodes a little bit of trust. And the other side of it is, it's like some poor designer had to design that button, like had to take time. Like, why are people taking time to design a button? Like, they should just pull the button out of the pattern library and put it on the screen. They shouldn't have to be, well, I guess I'll make it this color, and I guess should I use shading or not? It's like, there's so much to design. Why are we spending time doing that? So, and that's just one, small part. But yeah, to have standards, guidelines, patterns, templates in place, that's important, and we talk about that in the infrastructure course. We talk about staffing, the generalists versus specialists. So it's all the things, the stuff you're going to need to have in place in order for the team to be efficient and effective.
Right. Yeah, it is interesting because we actually have a lot of people who talk about either they're building a team or they're building out a team, or they're a lot of times there is a UX team, but it's been cobbled together from, it started with one person 5 years ago, and now there's a thing, but it's so like it fits in the structure, but no one actually gave it any thought about how everything should fit together.
Right, it's not like they were able to plan. Right, they ended up with these 4 people.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so it's sort of, I think it does let you, I don't want to say start from scratch, but there's a lot of best practices that people don't talk about that are about the, a lot of this course is where does UX fit in within the organization?
Yeah, and where do you want it to fit in, and how do you get there if that's not where you are, right? That's part of it too, and so this brings us to, now I get to talk about one of my favorite parts of the whole curriculum, which is actually in the free course, which is the roadmap and the action plan. Because one of the, this is the consulting that we do, that I think is, it just really seems to help teams. I've seen, I worked recently with a wonderful team. They're just, like motivated and smart and hardworking and really lost.
Right.
They were a relatively new team, and really everyone has really different experience, like Some people have a lot of design experience, and some people have none, right? Some people have a lot of research experience, and others have none. And they were now coming together to be a team. And I took them through this process of creating a roadmap and an action plan. And it was so much fun because it was really helpful. So, and I think even experienced teams who really know what they're doing, I think this is a great exercise to do. So the idea is that in a UX strategy roadmap, there are different categories to the roadmap, and not surprisingly, they're really similar to the courses. But there's infrastructure, there's promoting UX, and there's staffing. And so within each category, there's different questions or content. So for instance, there'll be a row, and the row will say, let me see if I can give you an example. Well, let's just do a really simple one, standards and guidelines. And so for that row on standards and guidelines, there'll be 5 levels. And the level 1 is we don't have any,
Right.
Level 2 is we have a little bit, but people don't really use them, right? Level 3, and it goes all the way up to level 5, which is we have a full set of standards, guidelines, patterns, and templates. Everybody's been trained on them, and everybody uses them, right? And so there are, I don't know how many different, I should have counted how many different rows there are, but there's these 4 categories. Each category has 3, 4, 5 rows. And you rate yourself. The first thing you do is you go through and you rate yourself. Where is the group now? And if you could do this if you're a UX team of 1 person too. Like for each of these line items, what level are we at currently? Okay?
Right.
And that's kind of the painful part. And we do that, we do that together. It's also kind of fun to do it with a group, and everyone does it individually, and then we compare, right? Did everyone agree? Which usually people are pretty close. There's not always agreement. Then what you do is you say, okay, where do we want to be? And I usually have people pick 2 levels, so short term and long term. And they get to define, short term 3 months or 6 months or 1 year. Is long term 1 year or 3 years? So here's where we are now in this particular line item. 6 months from now, where do we want to be? 1 year from now or 2 years from now, where do we want to be? And not only where do we want to be, but what's realistic, right? Because if you're at a level 0 and you say 3 months from now you want to be at level 5, okay, then you're probably not doing anything else for the next 3 months except this one thing. So so that's the first thing. That's called the roadmap. So now you have this great picture of where you are right now, where you want to get to in the short term, where you want to be in the long term. And then the next part of that is called the action plan. So, given that you're currently at a level 1 and you want to be at a level 3 in 6 months, what do you need to do to get there? What is the team or the individual going to need to do? And so, we make that list, the action plan list. And sometimes after we do that, we have to go back and adjust the roadmap because, if someone really doesn't have much of this stuff in place, they may not be able to move quite as fast as they want. So, but it's really useful, and it galvanizes the team. It makes it really clear what we need to be working on, how we get there. I have just found it to really be effective, and even just the conversations that you have making these decisions about where you're going to rate the group can be extremely valuable. Even just talking about this stuff can really kind of take a team to the next level. So so that's and that all that stuff's in the fundamentals course. So that's some of, I don't know, to me, Guthrie, I find this really fun. Now, maybe that's not fair, that
Right.
I have fun with it, with other people's struggles. What does that say about me? Anyway, so people can do this on their own. They can take the free course and do it on their own. And then, of course, they could ask us to come in and help them, which I always want to do because I think it's fun. And you would do with me, Guthrie, wouldn't you?
Mm-hmm.
Come and do this work.
Yeah. So there's 2 more.
2 more what?
Courses?
No, we talked about them. What?
Well, yeah, I guess, but I didn't get to ask you questions.
Oh, well, please go ahead. Which one would you? So you taught the promoting and the toolbox, or the 2 that you didn't ask questions on? Okay. Yeah. Go right ahead. What would you like to ask?
Promoting.
Promoting, yeah. What about it?
If there was one suggestion you could tell people for evangelization of UX inside their organization.
This is like asking me, which one of my children do I love the most? Because there's so many good ideas in this class. If there's one thing... Oh my
or
God.
Category of things.
I guess I have to say... Well, okay. There's one thing that I think is kind of easy and everyone should do. And then there's one thing that I think is really important but isn't easy. Can I give 2 answers?
Yes.
Which one you want to know first?
Okay.
Which one do you want me to tell you first?
I don't care.
You don't care? So the easy thing that I think everyone should do that I think really makes a difference, and it's going to sound maybe obvious, but I think it's one of these things that we forget to do, which is any time you're talking about the work you're doing, whether you're talking about it to a stakeholder, whether you're giving a presentation to, about the work that the team is doing, just anytime you're talking about your work to someone that's outside of the UX team, you have, before you open your mouth, you have to frame it in a way that's important to them. What happens in UX is we get so excited about the fact that we just redesigned this thing and we're making it so much easier, right? We took this complicated, confusing process or form or whatever it was, and we changed the design, and now it is, it's easy to use and people don't get confused and they love it. And we'll talk about the work that way because that's what we're excited about, and we forget that the person we're talking to, although they wouldn't probably want to say that they could care less about how much easier it is to use, that's not what they care about. Like that.
In their head, it's just a dumb little button, whatever. It's
a
great.
form. It's like, okay, nice, you made it easier. Okay, so
I'm like in charge of redesigning our entire like IT infrastructure.
Yeah.
That actually is making the company run.
Right. And you're all excited because you streamlined the form. It's like, I'm not excited about that. Or I'm in charge of product line sales.
Yeah, we're over here actually like running the company.
Yeah, and we're out there,
things.
We're selling. I got a sales force that sells this software, and you want to like get excited about one form. It's like, and so they'll be polite and they'll go, "Oh, isn't that great?" But you haven't really reached them because you haven't taken on their frame of reference. So what you have to do every time, especially if you're talking to, these are influential people, right? They could be, but whoever you're talking to, you have to be able to take what you're saying and put it in terms that they care about. So we made it easier to do this process, which means what? Like, what does that have to do with them? Which means that it's, you'll get reduced help desk calls. Oh, really? Yeah, and we're streamlining all the apps this way. Support, calls for support and help are going to fall drastically.
So, you know what you're suggesting?
What?
So, with UX, what's the most important thing to be like a good UXer?
I don't know. What?
Put the user first. Right?
Right. And so in this case, the user is not the user.
You need
the
to put
is your audience.
Yeah, you need to put the company first.
Or the particular person or group you're talking to, and the things they care about and they're interested in. So it's just it's just like a little change in the way you talk about what you do that it can make all the difference in the world, because now the person you're talking, and I've seen it, now the person you're talking to now becomes a real advocate for what you're doing, whereas before they kind of either didn't get it or didn't really care. So that's something I think everybody should try and do all the time. And then in terms of the thing that I think is a little harder, that's in this part of the course this part of the training we're talking about promoting, is finding someone in the organization who's at a high level who will champion what you're doing to their peers. Sometimes UX teams, they're buried deep in the organization somewhere. They're like, and we talk in the infrastructure course about, all the different places UX teams might be and the pros and cons of all these locations. But sometimes you're kind of buried in, some group somewhere, and you might be doing great work, but you don't, and you have a UX manager who's a wonderful person, but there's no one at a higher level in the company that's representing what you're trying to do or talking about what you're trying to do to the higher ups. And what I say to people is, if you find that you're doing great work but it never advances and you just feel like you're spinning your wheels, chances are you don't have a high level advocate. So I talk in the course about how to go about finding one and getting one. And that's not necessarily the person who's going to manage a group. And it may be, that person might be in a totally different group than the team. But you need to find someone who is a champion in order to have more influence.
Right. I don't have anything to say about UX toolbox with the toolbox. So
okay, all right.
That's pretty straightforward.
That's pretty straightforward. Yeah. So anyway, UX strategy. I think it's so important, because you want the work you do. You want to do the best work you can, as effectively as you can, and you want it to have as much influence as possible. And that's what I think this stuff gets you. So we'll see. I mean, we kind of put all this stuff together, and I guess we have to, there seems to be a lot of interest in it, but I don't really know, whether people will, whether they feel like they need to know this or not. So those of you who are listening, if you want to give us any feedback on, whether this is something of interest or importance to you, that we'd be interested in knowing that too, wouldn't we?
Yeah. All right. Anything else you want to add?
Just that putting those courses together, this whole curriculum took a lot longer than I thought it would. I think because we got busy with doing other work and we're trying to fit it in between. But I am so glad it's done.
Amen.
No, I think that's it, Guthrie. I think we covered it. And as you said, if people are interested in checking out the free course, it's at courses.theteamw.com. And Guthrie, if people want to get a hold of us for any reason, what should they do?
Email info@theteamw.com.
Yeah. Right. It's good talking to you, Guthrie.
You too. Thanks. Bye.
Bye.